So we had a kind of introduction last week. Today we are going to look at the teachings of 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲 and the very first portion of his book, The Workings of Kamma. So maybe we can start with meditation. So let's take about 10 minutes of meditation. For that, we can sit in a comfortable meditation posture. Make sure your back is erect, side cast down. We'll meditate with opened eyes. And we can make the first determination in our minds voicelessly. From now on, for 10 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. From now on, for 10 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. From now on, for 10 minutes, I will meditate on muscles and radiate loving kindness without any movement. And with that determination, we can gently, lovingly notice there's a flat piece of sinew at the top of the head. We allow it to be heavy. And changing. Just like at night, you can allow the sun to shine. Even though you don't see it, you have no idea in which direction it is. But still you can allow the sun to shine. You don't try for that, you don't make any effort, you don't help the sun. But still you're able to allow that it is shining. So in the same way, we allow this flat piece of sinew at the top of the head to have some weight and to be changing as we are aging. We don't have to see it. We don't have to feel it. We just allow. We continue in this manner to the forehead. There is a muscle. And again, we allow weight and change in that muscle. Then eyes, nose, lips, chin, cheeks, ears, back of the head, we allow all of the muscles and flesh, all of the muscles and sinews throughout the head to be heavy and changing. We continue to the neck, shoulders, arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, palms, fingers, tips of fingers, chest, abdomen, back, we allow all of the muscles and flesh throughout the upper part of the body to be heavy and changing. We continue to the buttocks, thighs, knees, calves, heels, soles, toes, tips of toes, we allow all of the muscles and sinews throughout the body to be heavy and changing. Now, as we allow the body to be the way it is, we achieve freedom from worry about the body. Let's enjoy this freedom. Let's watch this peace. Now let's share our peace with other living beings. In our minds, voicelessly, we can allow, we can wish. May all beings, including me, be in peace. May all beings, including me, be in peace. Now, because the time for this sitting is finished, let's make the last determination in our minds, voicelessly. From now on, I will always be calm. From now on, I will always be calm. From now on, I will always be calm. And with that determination, we can slowly, mindfully change the way of our sitting. And when we have changed the way of our sitting, let's take one more minute during which we will be watching our mind curiously to see what's going on in the mind. Okay, so now we can move on to reading the book. This will be the first time through the system that I'm going to be sharing this book, so let's see up to what extent this will be successful. So the system of discussing the book will be based on going through the book together, and specifically through some of the portions that I have highlighted. So we will not be really reading the book from the beginning till end. Instead, we will be looking at the portions that I would like to suggest to particularly remember and think about. But there are many other points in this book that I have not highlighted. And so you're, of course, most welcome to read the book yourself in full. The book's name is The Workings of Kamma. We will be reading the second revised edition, and the author is the 𝗹𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗲. The publishing year seems to be 2018. All right, so I believe I am now sharing my screen. You see? Okay. So what would be the best way? Portion of this book, the Clog-Bound Sutta, 𝗷𝗶𝗶𝗲𝗲 Sutta. The Buddha in the sutta is explaining the problem of kamma and the problem of rebirth. So first, inconceivable is this beginning, bhikkhus, of the round of rebirth. So we are already here looking at a problem. It is inconceivable. What does that mean? Does that mean that it is inconceivable for the Buddha? Does it mean that it's inconceivable for us? We don't know. In Myanmar, generally, people believe that here inconceivable means related to the Buddha. So the Buddha is not able to see the beginning. But we do not really have any support for that. We don't really know whether the Buddha knows or doesn't know the beginning of the round of rebirth. We only know that the Buddha suggested that this is not something we think about. Even the Buddha suggested that there are four things we will not be successful in thinking about. Either we will get mad, or we will be thinking about them until we die, and still we will not resolve them. Well, modern science is doing exactly that, thinking about some of these four things. So what are those four things? Is the Buddha, then the jhanas, the concentration of jhanas, then the world, and kamma, the way how our actions bring their consequence. So these are four things that we are not supposed to think about. The Buddha actually specifically discouraged monks from thinking about the world, explaining that monks will simply not be able to find the solution. When the Venerable 𝗀𝗶𝗶𝗲𝗲 approached the Buddha with questions regarding the world, the Buddha explained to Venerable 𝗀𝗶𝗶𝗲𝗀 that because 𝗀𝗶𝗶𝗀𝗀 became a monk for a different reason than for finding an answer for these particular questions about the world, such as whether the world is finite or infinite. Venerable 𝗀𝗂𝗶𝗸𝗲 should give these questions up and continue in the proper training of morality, concentration, and insight. So, what if an enlightened person asked the Buddha these questions? Well, that would be a very interesting question. Did an enlightened person ask the Buddha these questions? In fact, we have in the scriptures very scarce mentions of enlightened monks discussing these points about the world. And one of the, there are two, it seems that there are two attitudes generally followed in the scriptures to these 10, there are 10 questions about the world. Now we will simplify whether the world is finite or infinite, but there are 8 more which we can discuss later if you ask me for that. So, 2 attitudes from enlightened people. 1, this is just a view. It is not something useful. It's not something practical. So this takes us to a very interesting aspect of Buddhism in the Buddha's time, not so much today, and that's the practicality of the Buddha's teachings. So the Buddha's teachings should be practical. Talking about the world is not considered to be practical, and so we don't do it. Very easy. But then there is another point of view of a venerable monk who talks to a layperson who asks this question, whether the Buddha, after he passes into Nibbana, whether he exists, not exists, either exists and either exists and not exists, neither exists nor non-exists. So these 4 options, there are 4 of the 10 questions, so now you already know 6. So the venerable monk explains that if the body and the mind, if they are impermanent, unsatisfactory, not self, then what could there be already now, leading the layperson to understand that already now there is nothing that we could say that exists, that's stable or permanent or lasting or reliable. And if there is nothing that would be stable, reliable, permanent, or in any way existing now, what is the value of question whether we exist or not after we go to the full Nibbana? And so he was pointing out to the fact that this question about the Buddha existing or not existing takes this preliminary assumption that there is some self in the Buddha. And the question is then, where does this self, this permanent self, get after the Buddha achieves parinibbana or the full Nibbana? And the answer is, but the Buddha does not have any self during his life. Therefore, the question about what happens with his self after he passes away is off topic. It is out of, it is not, how to say that? It is not reasonable. It is as if I asked you, it is as if I asked you, where is your mother dog now? Or where is the paper tissue which makes up your heart in the body? How does it look like, and where will it go after you die? Well, you do not have any paper tissue in your body, or I hope so, and you surely do not have any dog mother. So the question about what will happen with them after you die is totally irrelevant, unreasonable, and very inappropriate. for somebody who knows that you don't have them. Okay, so for somebody who does not realize that you don't have them, now of course the question would be a question of a poor person. Oh, this is such a poor person. Now he doesn't know that I have no paper tissue in my body, so he's asking me what will happen with it after I die. Oh, this is such a poor person. He doesn't know that I have no dog mother. Okay, so like compassionately say, okay, you know what, this question is useless. Let's talk about something practical. So this is the way how we can look at these questions about the world. And the question about whether there is some beginning and what kind of beginning do all of us have in terms of karma is on a very similar level, because we are looking there at an assumption, the assumption that time is linear. The Buddha did not say whether time is linear or not. The Buddha did not say whether it is possible to travel in time, or whether there are loopholes or wormholes or whatever else. But it is not practical. It doesn't get us to any practical result. You could say, well, but if I know how to work with my past, well, then I could do something with my past. But shouldn't you do something with your present at the first place? Now, in the present moment, we have the full power over our mind and the body. We have the full power in terms of being able to be in the present moment. And following this advice of the Buddha to stay in the present moment, we can entirely liberate ourselves from all birth, old age, illness, and death. And we do not need for that any kind of theoretical explanation on how does the world work or doesn't work, or what's a problem or what's not a problem with the space or karma and so on. So instead, we are looking practically in the present moment. So the Buddha explains, inconceivable is the beginning, and also it is not suitable to conceive of it. A first point is not known of ignorance-hindered beings, fettered by craving, rushing on, and running about. By who is it not known? The Buddha doesn't tell us. But we can see that the point, that the emphasis here is to the craving, rushing on, and running about. The word samsara, which is usually known as the cycle of rebirth, actually comes from the words that mean running about. It's running about searching for the builder. It's running about for searching for some eternal self that could satisfy us forever. But because there is no such self, this running about is happening on and on and on for billions and billions of lives and existences in various worlds, various spheres, with various kinds of experience. So there are two main causes for this ongoing process: ignorance and craving. So without ignorance, there is no craving. Without craving, there is no ignorance. The Buddha explains that we should not take even the ignorance as something stable. Ignorance is also conditioned. It is conditioned by the so-called anusayas, or asavas is more accurate. It's conditioned by asavas, taints, or we can simplify to mental defilements: greed, hatred, ignorance. And greed, hatred, ignorance feed ignorance, and ignorance feeds greed, hatred, ignorance. So they run about one after another. We cannot therefore say that ignorance is something like self, or something stable, or something that's in any way permanent or reliable, or how to say that, running through. with us. No, it doesn't. So ignorance is impermanent, it's changing, it's dependent. Craving is impermanent, changing, dependent. So they're necessary for actions to possess kammic potency. That means that until you have ignorance and craving, there will be the power of your action and the consequence. As soon as you can get rid of all ignorance and craving, all what you do will become functional, kiriya. And being kiriya, functional, it just fulfills its function. It does not create any potential for consequence. How does it become functional? It becomes functional simply because there is no ignorance. So all of it then arises based on wisdom, based on faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. The kammic potency, 𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗲, is the potency by which volitional action through body, speech, or mind is able to produce a kamma result, 𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗃. So this 𝗀𝗶𝗶𝗃 is also called other moment kamma, nana kanika kamma, because we produce the kamma at one particular consciousness moment. I see now here's an inaccuracy. So other moment kamma actually is not an accurate translation, would be various moments kamma. Okay, nana means various. So it's the kamma that arises through various moments. So there are various moments that make up kamma. And these moments are the mind moments. We'll probably look at them later. The kammic potency produces the result at another moment. So kamma brings about result later as the so-called vipaka or consequence. Nana kanika kamma, therefore, here apparently means that our kamma later brings a consequence at a various moment. Could be several kinds of moment, could be happening in various situations. So for example, killing somebody has the consequence of not only being born in lower realms, in the worlds of suffering, but also it has the consequence of potentially later being born as a human and suffering short life. A clog. So now we get here a little bit of introduction to the name of the sutta. We will get to the point about this clog later in the discourse, but let's look at the text gradually. Now we have here the explanation of what is a clog. It's a block of wood that serves to stop a dog from running. So there is a piece of wood hanging by a strap from the dog's neck, and as the dog would be running, this piece of wood would be beating its legs. And because the dog doesn't want to suffer from this kind of harm, the dog doesn't run and walks instead. We learn here that it's also used in rural Myanmar. I didn't stay so much in rural Myanmar, but I did, and I have never seen it. So it's probably either rare or only in certain regions. The verb sangsarati, not sangsarati, sangsarati comes from sang, the same way, and sarati, run on. I would say that sang also means together, and it means running on all together throughout all those times. So sangsara would be the nature of the world, which consists of running away for all of those times that we were running. So we are running away from suffering, but unfortunately, we cannot run away from it in any other way than by following the Eightfold Noble Path. So while each volitional formation arises and perishes, its inherent kammic potency, 𝗀𝗂𝗯𝗀𝗃, remains in that same mentality-materiality continuity. So this is an amazing point. This is an amazing point, and it's a very problematic point as well. First, the 𝗀𝗂𝗯, I think this could be a footnote given by the 𝗀𝗂𝗯. We do not really know who's the author of these footnotes, possibly the teacher himself, because they provide such an amazing source of references and information that I believe it's actually coming from the author of this book directly. And we learn here that the kammic potency remains in the mentality-materiality continuity. But how? Where? How does it remain there? If mentality-materiality continuity is consisting of moments, then how does it remain there in those moments? Does it remain in all of those moments? Does it remain in some of those moments? Does it surpass the moments so it actually remains there unchanging while those moments are actually changing? Or does it remain there as sub-moments of the moments? Or does it remain there in some cases, and sometimes it does not remain there? And how does it enter those moments, and how does it leave those moments? We do not get to learn that. But we get to learn it from one Sinhalese master and from one Burmese master. I'm not exactly sure which Sinhalese master has written this in a book, but I know which Burmese master has written about it. It's from the great master, Venerable 𝗀𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗃, also known as 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃. And this so-called Professor 𝗀𝗃𝗃 or Venerable 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 suggests that kamma is actually maintained in the moments of jhavana. So our mental stream is supposed to work in some kind of like a regularly fashion, and we can therefore distinguish segments of the mental process. And these segments usually consist of some kind of existence continuum, which are moments of mind that just maintain the fact that you're human when you're human. And for example, for an animal, they would maintain the fact that they're animals when they're animals. So there are these moments that maintain the fact that we are this what we are. Then there come the moments of gradual preparation, accepting, and dealing with the objects of our senses. So, for example, there are these moments that maintain the existence. Then there is some potential to be aware of an object, for example, a visible object by the eye. Then there is the contact between the eye and the visible object. Then there comes some kind of experience of that object, dealing with that object. So when it comes to the jhavanas are the feelings, but also they are the gradual attitude, the gradual dealing with those objects. And when we do an action, it is believed by 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃, by Dr. 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, that these moments of our actions, that our kamma, are maintained in these moments of jhavana. But it actually brings us more problems than resolutions, because with this idea that jhavana maintains our kamma, we actually get back to the beginning of the question. How does the kamma maintain itself? So now we know that it's in the jhavana moments, but wait, after those jhavana moments, there come the tadarammana, more on that possibly later. And then again, bhavanga moments and other moments which are not jhavanas. And then jhavanas come later. And then again, moments which are not jhavanas, and then jhavanas come later. Also, there are times when we are asleep. When we are deep asleep, there actually are no jhavanas at all. There are only bhavangas. So how does the kamma get maintained during these moments when you do not have jhavana moments? No answer. So we do not really have any answer on how does your kamma gets maintained as the time goes. My suggestion is that it doesn't have to be maintained. Why would it have to be maintained? Well, the fact that you have learned about things being maintained or being continuous in a certain way doesn't really mean that everything must be continuous or that everything must be traceable at every moment. It doesn't. The world is the way it is. Whether we understand it or not, whether we like it or not, whether it makes sense to us or not, it doesn't really matter to the world. The world will be just the way it is. And so I don't think that we really need to worry about the continuity of our kamma because it is simply there. And unfortunately, it's not explained. We do not get that explained in our scriptures. But we do have explained how we can cut off kamma. Then maybe when the kamma is cut off, we can be preoccupied with how does the kamma really move from a moment to a moment. But again, up to my knowledge, there is no such explanation available. All right, so we have done one page. This book has about 400 pages, so we definitely have a lot more to work on. But I believe that I have provided you with a pretty good basics on dealing with the problem of kamma, dealing with the problem of problems related to the world, and therefore we can move on to questions. So if you have any questions, if there is anything you would like to ask me regarding regarding this book, regarding anything else, anything and everything, let us know in the chat box. Probably you have some comment options in Facebook and in YouTube. So you're most welcome to write down your question, or if you have anything you would like to add to what I've said, now is the best time. Okay, no questions in here. So I think this would be all for today. I think there were 4 things we had to do, right? Not sure what they are. Let me see. Oh, conclusion. So I don't know how to do conclusion, but you of course can join us next week. Everybody is most welcome to join us, and we will be starting at the same time as today, the same day, the same time, probably the same channel, probably the same system, and definitely the same book. So we'll be continuing onwards to page number 2. And if you have any questions, you can write them down either here in the comments, or you can write them for yourself in a notebook so that when we meet again, you can share with us your question so that I can provide answer and many people can benefit from your question. So thank you everyone for coming. Let me see if there's something more we have to do. Something went wrong, okay. So may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be successful in everything you do.